How do you, in your short time with the Ferns, ensure that these headlines didn't harm the collective aspect of that Silver Ferns?
Tina's got a huge amount of strengths, and one of the things I love watching her shot. I just think it's a joy to watch.
Mm,
Even more joyful when it goes through,
yeah,
more joyful when it wins you the game right on the buzzer.
exactly.
We can't spend too much time worrying about Australia. We have to be aware. We certainly can't go into it blind, but at the same time, we have to really hone and accentuate our strengths and make sure we're really clear on what we do well and get that execution every time under pressure.
Well, kia ora Netball Scoop whānau, and welcome back to the Netball Scoop YouTube channel. My name is Toby, and in today's episode, I'm very, very excited to have a little chat with a very special guest. She is none other than the interim head coach of the Silver Ferns. Please welcome Yvette McCausland-Durie. Yvette, how are we doing today?
Good. Lovely to be here. Thank you, Toby.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for coming on. I mean, been a big fan of your work for years. Actually, a little tidbit, the first ever live game I went to was a game that you coached for the Pulse in like 2010. So yeah, gotta love it. So yeah, pretty special to chat with you today. And I know to think that, only a couple of months ago, your netball coaching career was kind of put on pause to now all of a sudden you've just come off a very successful series sweep against South Africa. So kind of how special was it to have that successful hit out with not only the Silver Ferns, but up against that really strong South Africa side?
Yeah, huge respect for South Africa and the work that they did. And we saw obviously them continue to improve and progress throughout that series in the Tiny Jamison. And for me, always special to be part of the Silver Ferns, the brand, and this group of young women who are hugely professional and work incredibly hard to reflect, all of the great values and the mana that it brings. So it's a privilege for me to be here. And as you say, I've been out of the netball being a teacher and being involved as co-principal at Tipene School. So a different life. I've carried on coaching and doing lots of other bits of coaching,
Mm.
but certainly not at this level. So love being in this environment and the challenges that come with it. And obviously really proud of what the Silver Fern Group achieved in the Tiny Jamison series, but there's
Mm.
always work to be done.
Yeah, and I mean, as you did mention, the results were kind of varied, I guess, throughout those three tests. Like the first test was a pretty much a Silver Fern dominance. That second test was kind of a result I think we were a little bit more expecting. I guess, still that really good challenge, but the Silver Ferns being able to push through. And then that last test where it was just a huge battle and you guys scraped past with that victory. So, what were your overall like summary of the series, I guess, with those kinds of results?
Yeah, agree. It was, as you've said, as we transitioned through, we saw the South Africa that we expected to see earlier. And I
Mm,
think for us, my overall summary, really proud that we got a 3-0 series. Proud because there's lots that's been going on, and we're really upfront about that. We're a workplace like any other workplace, and as a group of young professionals navigating challenge, I was super impressed with the way they connected and worked really hard. And that's the key bit, is clear on the vision. And that was about winning each game and making
mm,
sure that we could put ourselves and I guess express the best potential that they all have. They are the best players in New Zealand that have been selected for the task. And that was our goal each day. We wear the black dress. We want to make sure we bring the mana and uplift what that looks like in our performance. So that's one of the pieces I'm most proud of. I think we're realistic. There's some work to do for us going forward in terms of our game. And look how wonderful to now have Australia right on the back of this to be able to
mm.
go and test ourselves again.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, watching that series, there were a lot of standouts, but I think for me personally, I couldn't get past the work of Martina Salmon, especially in her debut test series. She had a few minutes in that test one, and then all of a sudden she's getting like really good game time, and then starting in test three. It was a really cool evolution to kind of see. So, what was it like seeing her grow throughout the series?
Yeah, Martina's got a huge amount of strengths, and one of the things I love watching her shot. I just think it's a joy to watch.
Mm,
Even more joyful when it goes through,
yeah,
more joyful when it wins you the game right on the buzzer.
exactly.
For me, that third test was a bit of deja vu of our Fast Five experience, where she
Exactly.
managed to put us into the playoffs. But look, as a young person, I've seen huge growth in her as a person, her confidence, the willingness to ask questions and to learn. And that's what I've loved about this whole environment is people are willing to learn, open to growth, and recognise that actually they've got a lot of knowledge within the room that they can work off and they share in terms of that. And Martina, that was her first time that she's played goal attack in that third test. It was
Mm,
for a full match at an international level against an outstanding goal defence. So that ability to show resilience, composure, and to have the confidence to say, I can stay in this and do the job, I think is huge. And what we know, part of Martina's evolving has been Amelia Ann was here for a long time as a goal attacker, world-class goal attack. She was also the captain. And so there's lots of new learning and lots of difference that's happening that they're working through alongside their own game and their own individual space as internationals. So look, it was wonderful to see Martina debut. We had her whānau come in to the dress presentation, and they made her mum made quite a hard case comment as, I always, miss seeing you being home in Australia, and I
mm.
always thought you were going to be a diamond, and we're like, oh gosh, no. She always wanted, Martina had always said to her mum, no, I want to wear the black dress. So to
Mm.
see that evolve and then to see her game evolve and her character evolve, I think, yeah, really special. We're grateful to have her in our team.
Yeah, what an awesome story. She's kind of evolved this year as well. And I mean, lastly, regarding that Tiny Jamison series, I mean, I'm very interested in hearing about as you throughout the series, obviously with the headlines that were going on, you trialed
Mm.
different captains to make sure that, you weren't emphasizing that this is the captain that I would have put forth, rah, rah, rah. So how
Yes.
important was it to trial that system out with, Kelly, Karan, and Grace all being the captain for probably the first times in their career at this international level? How important was it to do that rather than emphasizing the singular captain?
Yeah, it was important on a number of levels. One, it was about respecting that I myself are here in an interim role and our leaders are here in an interim role for that period. And at that stage, what we knew, we were here for that Tiny Jamison series. So everything was about being, let's be task focused and let's think about the impact that our decisions are going to make long term. And so making sure the leadership group that had been formed, that were already there, it was a natural piece for us to lean into them and to use their strengths. And as I was saying before with Amelia Rand moving, this is a whole new learning space for our leaders to be captains. And that in itself, they've been captains at domestic level, a number of them, but this is another layer of experience that they need, of expectation that comes with it. And on top of that, the whole group being able to support each other along with other team members meant in a time of somewhat turbulent space that we were in, they could have that network that they could support and learn and grow from. So I found it really valuable. They found it meant that they had support and they weren't having to carry those challenges over a really long period, but they could support each other across that program in terms of the series.
Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't ask, obviously, about, slightly about the headlines that have been going on, but more importantly, like the impact it has had on the playing group as a whole. I mean, it wouldn't have been nice for anyone to see kind of like the scrutiny, the media scrutiny, and the social media stuff that was kind of going on in comments. So I'd love to hear, firstly, how are the Blaze doing as a whole? I'm sure they're all well as a collective, but also, how do you, in your short time with the Ferns, ensure that these headlines didn't harm the collective aspect of that Silver Fern side that you guys have prided yourself on for years?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. It is a challenge for people to shut out noise
Mm,
and not helpful noise, and it's also difficult if they do see it not to take it personally. And so, working with young professionals around what are the things you can control and what are the things that actually make you able to do your job better. And when you can get really clear about compartmentalizing that, it doesn't mean you can't have emotion. You've got to have emotion. It's part of who you are,
mm.
but then you have that ability to have performance inside that. And at that point, when you literally move on to the court, you have to have a performance mindset. So I've been, again, really impressed with, they've got networks of people, of support. There's ex-players that they've worked with. Some have got their own sports psych. Some have family. They have a different group, and everybody knows what that looks like in order for them to be present, to know their value, and to know what they bring into this environment, and more importantly, to understand their role. So what did we do as management? Our big piece was about saying, how do we make sure this environment, we produce a space that allows every athlete to be, well, it's conducive to performance, so they have what
Mm,
they need from a performance perspective, but importantly, that involves, where's our structural clarity, both on and off the court? How are we acting and behaving in ways that are uplifting and mana enhancing? But that doesn't mean we don't have the conversations that we need to have. And I keep reflecting back on workplaces, look across the world and across the country.
mm,
Workplaces are not always necessarily full of absolute synergy in terms of people, but
mm,
they are good workplaces, and places that are productive have really good synergy about where they're going and about what the vision is and what it is they're trying to achieve. And so we worked really hard on, let's know our role, understand the things that we're aligned on and where we're heading. And for us, that was clear. We wanted to win matches. We wanted to put performances together that we could be proud of, that were the best showcase of individuals' potential, and that our public could be proud of, because we know that this is hurting them as well. But we are working incredibly hard to be the people we need to be in order to make sure that the performance, when we're in that space, is absolutely focused on that outcome of, people want us to win Test series. We want to win it more than anybody. We know
mhm.
as professionals that's our job. So we didn't move from that. And I was really proud of how people could compartmentalize and go to work.
Yeah, and I mean, the test series coming up will probably be the one that you guys want to win the most and be the most united for. The Constellation Cup coming up. It's going to be a challenge for both sides. I mean, both sides are got, new players coming through
Yeah.
and, they're still working out some chinks in their armor. So I know you guys have just started camp. I think you're day 2 or something into your camp.
Yes.
So what have you guys been doing in this camp to make sure that you guys are fully prepared and addressing those concern areas from Tiny Jamison?
Yeah, perfect for us. Every time you get time together is valuable. So our biggest
Mm,
piece is making sure all the minutes count. So
mm,
there is not only just physical sessions, what are the learnings that we've taken from Tiny Jamison that we can put forward? And that's nice that it's so quick in the turnaround, because those are really fresh.
mm,
Equally helpful is that South Africa are now playing Australia. So we've got some, ability to compare and contrast where we got to against a similar opposition. We're looking also at the performances in the 2024 Con Cup, and in that Constellation Cup, Australia won the last one, but New Zealand dominated through
mm,
that first. And what do we want to take from that? Keep accentuating the things that worked well. Is it against the same personnel? What do the new personnel bring, both from our team, but also from Australia? So that scout analysis, the opposition analysis, we're doing a lot of that as well. Always making time for conversations and growth, and more importantly, always making time within camp. And they're structured around the united and the unification of groups together. So it's a typical camp in lots of ways, but what I love about it is it's for a clear purpose, and that's Constellation Cup preparation. And that just keeps narrowing the head about where's our vision, where are we heading, and is every minute counting towards making us better for that outcome.
Yeah, and I mean, coming into the series, I know that as well, like last year, as you mentioned, there was that 3 series wins that you guys had, and I feel like you guys will want to make sure that you do not do anything less than that. You want to keep that high standard. So, what's potentially like the number one thing, obviously not to give away any analysis, but like potentially as like a united front going into that series to make sure that you guys just keep that standard and, make sure that you test the team.
Yeah, you're right. Standards is a really big one. And, I was obviously an observer in the 2024 Constellation Cup,
Mm,
and we all, with huge amount of pride, watched how the Silver Ferns really put their game together and the joy that came from that. So for us, it's about saying, what are the things that worked? And that comes back to looking at individuals and what do they bring? So when we play in this way, what happens, looking at some of the connections that work really well for Australia, certainly between Austin at goal attack and Garvin at goal shoot. That's a really strong connection. So we're very aware of what do we do to impact and try and, create ways that we've got to make people's strengths less prominent. So how do we put them in positions that are less ideal? So we're looking at all of that finer detail, but we can't spend too much time worrying about Australia. We have to be aware. We certainly can't go into it blind, but at the same time, we have to really hone and accentuate our strengths and make sure we're really clear on what we do well and get that execution every time under pressure. So recap on principles. What are we trying to achieve? How do we do that well? And bringing those together across sessions is a key focus for us.
Yeah, and I mean, final question just regarding the Constellation Cup and also your involvement. I mean, this will be the first time that you'll be head coach during a Constellation Cup. So, kind of how exciting is it for you personally that you get to go and do this opportunity, but with this amazing group of girls?
Yeah, personally for me, every opportunity to be involved at a high performance level, I really cherish. And when you spend time away from the game, it's around being with people who are like minded, who want to work really hard for an outcome, who are supreme in terms of athletes, both technically and tactically.
Mm,
And for me personally, it's trying to make sure that I'm able to facilitate them getting their best potential out, but not putting them in a space where there's confusion. So I'm always about how do I make less of it? How do we keep things simple and clear? Do we understand our roles? Are we ready to execute that? If we're not, are we comfortable enough to have those conversations, whether it's between athletes, coaches, back and forth, whatever it looks like, that we enter there eyes wide open. We've looked at the analysis. We know what we're coming up against. There are no surprises, but we've still got to trust our own execution. So I'm really excited. It's a privilege to be in this space as the interim coach, and it's a privilege to work with these athletes who I'm incredibly proud of, working through all the challenges that sit there that are part of life as
mm.
much as anything, and working towards making sure that they can produce their best performance in this Constellation Cup.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Yvette, for your time. It means a
Pleasure.
lot. And yeah, I know as a biased New Zealand fan, I'll be hoping nothing but the best for you guys.
Thank you. We
Yeah.
appreciate all the support we can. Thank you so much.